Well, folks, I think we found the most interesting man in North Idaho. This podcast will not disappoint. I can promise you that. We covered a variety of topics, including spearfishing pike in North Idaho, all the way up to advanced battery technology from Ryan's new company that he's a part of with DOD contracts incoming. Very interesting human being, done a lot in his life, and this was one of my favorite conversations, so I hope you guys enjoy. This is Ryan Wiggins, and welcome to North Idaho Experience. Here.
I feel like a real boy.
Yeah. You can have something in your lip, feel like a man. The fascinating thing is that when you start looking into the history of Christmas, and it comes from, there's two ways to look at this, because there's the Christian view, but then there's the pagan view and the Vikings, and there's all of these interesting things related to mushrooms, and there was somehow it all tied into Amanita muscaria, and that's why these little mushrooms, you'll see them in Christmas stuff all the time, the little red and white mushrooms. I didn't tell that story very well because I don't remember it entirely, but there's a connection there, and it's very odd.
Mushrooms in the history of humankind is kind of mind-blowing to me.
Yeah,
Same with other things that humans found that would get them high. There has long been a tradition, probably as long as we've been creatures, to seek out things that alter our mind. And I laugh about, like, the frog in Africa, that if you lick its belly, you get high.
So those actually live where I'm from, in Arizona.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Colorado River toad or Sonoran desert toad.
Yeah.
Yep.
So but right next to it, there will be a frog or a toad you lick, and it will kill you. So that means somewhere along the way,
Right.
Bill and Ted are rolling through the jungle in Africa, and they're like, all right, buddy, there's two different frogs, man. Let's see what's up.
So they actually found that stuff in pipes, like Native American, like ancient pipes.
They were
So
they were
the-
smoking the frogs.
The proper method is to actually smoke the venom and not to damage the frog, but yeah.
No way. So they would go extract the venom.
I mean, if you really want to know about it, I actually did a high school report on that frog.
Of course you did. That's amazing.
Tells me a lot about what you were like in high school, and that sounds
amazing.
I was breeding frogs at the time, but there's three chemicals in that toad. And the one that you get if you lick it is the one that induces vomiting and gives you diarrhea and stuff like that. The other two are MEOXs, which is it's a form of DMT. So, the toad's natural, the coyote licks the toad, gets sick, vomits, trips, toad hops away.
Yeah.
Hey guys, before we get too deep, make sure you hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss any of our latest North Idaho Experience content. And if you're thinking about buying, selling, relocating, or just exploring North Idaho, reach out to our team. We're proud to be one of the top-rated real estate teams in North Idaho with the 5-star reviews to back it up. We don't just sell homes, we help people experience North Idaho. Our contact info is in the show notes. Now let's get back to the episode. Have you heard the stoned ape theory that apes ingesting mushrooms, hallucinogenic mushrooms, is what propelled their brains to grow rapidly, not overnight, obviously, but over a much shorter time frame than evolution normally would have done, and we are the product of that. That it's a theory, obviously. I don't know.
So apes got high on shrooms.
Yes.
Went on a vision quest.
Many
And
vision quests.
human
Many
beings were the
vision quests
result.
over thousands of years, and then that expanded their brains.
There's a couple of doctors that are talking about that along the the evolution theory and how one specific region in Africa, they can tell that some primates were ingesting mushrooms with hallucinogenic properties, and there's a theory that they think that is what developed the cognitive spin-off of.
Wild.
Well, and what's really fascinating is almost universally people that have hallucinogenic experiences have some experience of talking to God or something like that, and it's across all different type of hallucinogens, and that's kind of interesting. So you think about the origins of religion or religions. Is that a factor in all of these, where they consumed some type of hallucinogenic substance and now they have this experience that's extremely spiritual across the board? Is that the birth of some religions? I don't know.
Well, we know that they've been using it for a really, really, really long time. I mean, if you look at, Native Americans, that, peyote and sweat lodges, that was a significant part of their culture. And doing a transition to becoming an adult.
Still is.
Yeah, I think so. I think it
Still
checks
is
out.
very much.
Yeah.
We got into heavy stuff real quick.
Yeah, we sure did. And that all started from talking about nicotine just prior
That's
to
true.
this.
while I put in a fake nicotine pouch because you guys are gonna make fun of me.
It's
I'm
a
a bitch. I
nootropic.
can't do it.
It's a nootropic. It's fine.
What does that even mean?
It makes your brain work better,
Oh, good. I need more of that.
supposedly.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true.
Cool.
But there you go. Look at a man. You got a pouch.
Yeah.
I actually, so I go back. I go back and forth with nicotine. I try to use it carefully, because it's extremely addictive. Anyone that says otherwise is full of shit, in my opinion. But there are some interesting health benefits. I don't. Yeah, you probably know, but you seem to be one of those people that know about everything.
knows a lot about
So-
a lot.
I was talking to one of your guys about that
Yeah.
the other day about the nicotine molecule and especially in regard to like morphine, which is, heroin half-life's into morphine after like 9 minutes. All the addiction is based on the morphine molecule. And there's a couple drugs that are fast tracking getting pushed through the FDA right now that make the brain think you're having a higher dosage of said morphine chemical. So we can give lower dosages of morphine-based drugs for pain management in the hospitals, which in turn lower the dependence afterwards.
Oh.
And I'm passionate about that because I come from a place where, we graduated with 300 kids in high school and we lost 30.
Wow.
And it was all because of the black tar coming across the border. Black tar heroin was all coming in through Arizona eventually and distributing throughout the country. And, we all grew up riding dirt bikes and racing and stuff like freestyle motocross. And, you get a broken bone back when I was a kid, they give you 60 Percocets.
Mm-hmm.
Your bones hurt for what, 3 or 4 days?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got 2 months supply of getting high every day. We had a lot of addiction problem in my high school. With
That's usually how it
pharmaceutical
happens,
pills.
right? It starts with pharmaceuticals from an injury. I mean, we've all had injuries. I've had surgery multiple times, and they give you a lot. And I'm usually like, I don't want that much, because I know the way my body reacts to it. Like, my body likes it a lot. We've talked about this. Eric.
Yeah, same here.
And that scares the crap out of me because I've seen the other side of it, and I'm like, I do not want to go down that way. But if I have it, I'll be like, well, I'll take it. Why not? So I don't want it in the house.
That's super interesting because I've long thought about that. When you begin to understand, I was a dope cop out here, and fentanyl was my passion. That's probably where I was the strongest and kind of recognized as an expert in that.
And you haven't
area.
even tried it yet. Come on, man.
Well, yeah, dude, but like anything with opiates, I had those experiences, and opiates are one of those things that transcend social class structure. Like, it can reach out and get anybody, just like what you're talking about. One injury to reach out and get them. One guy in particular, and I don't care how anybody feels about him, but class was like Rush Limbaugh. He came out and had pain management, right, and got completely addicted to opiates. So it doesn't care how much money you make and how much money you don't. Mm-hmm. But when you start to understand what fentanyl actually does and how it mimics chemicals naturally produced in the body and goes up in the pleasure receptor and then releases the dopamine, I've long thought that there should be a way that we could manipulate that part of the brain to do something similar without that incredibly addictive property associated with that chemical.
You'll see it soon. And these drugs are based off of the nicotine molecule. It's the way the brain handles nicotine and heroin or the morphine it's like the similar portion of the brain.
I've had so many people recently talking to me about a person on our team. She uses nicotine when she has flare-ups of Lyme's disease. Mm-hmm. She's had it for years, and it was super debilitating, like paralyzed her. And now when she feels a flare-up coming on, which she says is like every 6 months, she'll use a nicotine patch and put it on her body. And that completely reduces the symptoms of that disease.
Interesting.
I've heard it with, the big C, the big pandemic we had a few years back. People were using that to combat it. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but have you heard things like that as well?
Yes, but I haven't dove into it. I did read something interesting the other day about a woman who accidentally sniffed a bunch of LSD thinking it was cocaine.
Oh.
And she had Lyme disease along with other things.
Yeah.
Had a really bad time, was hospitalized for like a week. But after she came to and started, communicating with people again, that Lyme disease was gone.
What? The more and more I pay attention to things, the more I realize we don't know anything about anything.
Right.
We think we do, but
Baby powder's healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like things start to connect and you're like, wow, science really doesn't know that much about a lot of these things.
Okay, so what I'm gathering from all of this is psychedelic mushrooms. We get smarter, right?
Yep.
It's how we grow as a species.
Yep.
It's how we it's how we evolve. I need LSD, and it'll cure a lot of diseases as long as I take it in copious quantities. Nicotine will resolve pretty much any symptoms of any disease that I have. All right,
Yes.
you heard
You
it
have a
here
cold.
first.
This is
LSD,
not
nicotine.
medical advice, children. So please do not use that. But I mean, on that note, ivermectin. So that if you live in Idaho, you are fortunate because you can buy it over the counter. Not the big chain pharmacies; they're still a little too woke for that. But like locally here, Medicine Man Pharmacy, you can get ivermectin over the counter. And I have used that many times in the last couple of years when I feel like some gnarly sickness coming on, like a hardcore flu. Boom, I start hitting the ivermectin, 12 milligrams a day for 5 days. That is not medical advice. That's just what I've done. And I swear it nips it right in the bud.
That's wild.
It's wild. Who would have thought?
Well, several people did.
Yeah, but like I tell that to family members who are very left-leaning, and they're like, "Oh no, are you okay?" And I'm like, no, it's one of the safest drugs out there. It's been around since like the 70s, and it's a strong antiviral medication and antiparasitic.
Well, why, Seth, do you think in the current medical industry they wouldn't want people to be able to use something that's seemingly inexpensive and proven to be
crazy? It's like people can't make money on it. That might be the motivating factor. I'm not sure. But I do know that parasite that I've had for 25 years from eating deep fried horse shit has now probably died, and it's no longer part of me, which is sad.
Was deep fried horse shit a part of your regular staple of your
No,
diet?
just one time.
Okay.
This is actually how I
Wait, did you actually do that?
No, this is how I locked down my wife, and this is what impressed her so much that she decided to marry me, because my father-in-law, he's a great guy. I made the claim that anything deep fried is good. And he said, "Oh, anything?" And I was like, "Absolutely. What about horse shit?" And I was like, "If you produce it, sir, I'll eat it." And by God, he went out and got some very fresh horse shit. He beer battered it, thankfully, what a great guy, and fried it up for me. And I ate it. And I did not check the internal temperature, and I think that might have been my mistake. So I harbored a parasite, I'm pretty sure. I never confirmed this, but I just feel like it was in my brain. And I think ivermectin probably kicked that.
I have. I'm learning about you today.
So my wife was deeply impressed because she's like, "Well, he's a man of his word."
But,
right?
But he also ate horse shit. I feel like there's some give and take in there, dude.
I did not get a kiss that night.
No.
Yeah. Do you know what it tastes like?
What?
It tastes like shit. Very much so. I do not recommend it.
It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of things on a dare.
It's very grassy. I mean, if like there were any fecal matter to eat, I would say horse is probably the best.
Yeah.
Like you look at a lot of other ones, you're like, there's no chance. There's nothing else I would eat. I don't think.
Has it changed your perspective when you look at other animals and you're like, maybe I'd try that?
No. I'm off it hardcore now.
Yeah.
One and done. Never again.
Do you know how much money people pay for that crazy cat poop coffee?
The
you know what I'm talking about? It's like $600 a cup.
I've heard of it. Never had it.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. Sorry, this got out of control. This went off the rails.
Real quick. We didn't even bust out the Jameson.
Yeah.
It usually does.
Yes.
So, Ryan, what's your business?
My business? I work for 3 companies right now. 2 of them are mine, and the other is not mine.
Okay.
So I'm the director of strategic accounts for a company called Abyss Battery, which is a lithium manufacturer. We do like trolling motor batteries, boat batteries, marine specific lithium batteries. And then I have my own defense company called Defense Energy. And I have a DBA for that called High Cap Energy, where I do stuff for currently we're doing stuff for NASA and the DOD and the large utility sector.
How did you get into that? What was your background in the military? Was it related to that?
I guess that's where I learned about electricity and stuff. I was a mineman in the Navy.
Okay.
Not a lot of people have heard of that job, but our job was to clear underwater minefields. So schooling was very technical, microcircuitry, stuff like that.
Are they still a thing in today's modern battlefield?
Mines?
Yeah.
Iran just dropped a bunch a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
They actually blew up our base. I was in Bahrain. Like 2 days after I got out of underwater mine countermeasure school, I was on a plane to Bahrain because I got to choose orders. They blew up our base, NSA Bahrain, and blew up the pool. But we were always there for that threat, because the admiral would tell us in big meetings, if we call them Country Purple, if Country Purple drops a mine in the Straits, it's going to cost the world $1 billion an hour. Whoa. So you guys are the tip. So, patrolling and stuff out there, but a lot of technical schools. I went to a school for the mine hunting sonar set. That was pretty technical. They only did about 4 students a year. It was very expensive to put sailors through that school. They told me it cost $1 million. Whoa. It was for ANS QQ32 Victor 3 mine hunting sonar set. It's like a 12,500 pound egg that we lower out of the ship in the sea chest so we could lower into variable depths. And we kind of tow it through the water so we can see. You have to be in the thermocline in which you're seeking to get a good picture, right? Because sonar can bounce off of thermoclines.
You're talking Eric's language right now.
Yeah, it's all. We're gonna nerd out. Temperature, salinity, and pressure. So you've got like the surface tension, thermocline, and then it'll go down to like 100 feet, and then 100 to 250, and then 250 and below. Right,
and we would drop a device while we were getting our sonar ready for sonar operations for the towed body. We'd have guys on the side of the ship drop a device down to take salinity, temperature readings, so that we got accurate data, and I could adjust my sensors to have a better picture.
Sonar acoustics underwater is wild. I mean, you get into a thermocline, you could hear stuff from hundreds of miles away just by the way those waves travel, and you just get them intermittently, depending on how long the waves are. It's nuts.
The atmosphere can do weird stuff like that too.
Yeah.
I was about 25 miles offshore with my buddy Pete. He was my boat captain. I was a dive instructor and spearfishing instructor for a while in Florida. We were like, I forget, let's just say 25 miles off of Clearwater out in the Gulf. And Pete's like, dude, listen to this. He turns up the radio. It was, I think it was channel 6-8, which is like, common communications. And we were picking up clear as day radio from Cape Canaveral, from cruise ships. They were talking to each other. And we could clearly hear them talking about entering the port of Cape Canaveral and stuff. Later found out that was a week we had massive solar flares.
Right.
So
what's the
changes acoustics of everything? Yeah, that's wild.
The way stuff travels through the atmosphere, who knows? I used to have you asked me how I got into batteries, and it's pretty much because I used to live on a sailboat. So I purchased a sailboat real cheap, spent a year refurbishing it with the goal to sail around the world. So that's how I got into batteries, by buying lithium batteries, rewiring the whole boat, learning everything from scratch. But I had a single sideband radio on my boat, where the antenna would go from the back of the boat all the way up to the top. And I started learning some stuff online and got hooked up with some older guys around the world that had a club where they talk to each other and see who they can talk to. And I successfully talked to and listened to Portugal, and some guys in the Bahamas, and also Central America. And I was sitting on a sailboat in, Clearwater Marina.
That's cool.
Is that like ham radio? Is that the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. There's bouncing waves off of the stratosphere.
Wild. There's a lot of people up here in North Idaho that are really into that, which is kind of cool. I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the prepping community.
Yeah, being off grid. Yep. There is a ham radio contingent for sure.
Have we talked about the mesh system? Have you? And I'm not talking about the transvaginal mesh that they put in me when I had hernia surgery, but why are you laughing, Eric? I think that's what they call it.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So a buddy of mine who's former retired Coast Guard guy, he got me turned on to it, and it's what's the right way to put this? It doesn't rely on cell signals. It relies on radios, but you build this mesh network where people privately own all of these, and they can put up repeaters, and now you created a communication network that does not rely on cell phone technology. So if phones go down, you're in theory still able to communicate through text on these devices, and it's pretty cool. I have one at my house. I have a repeater at my house, and he's over near Hayden Lake, and we're able to communicate through that system. And I mean, he's pinged people over in like Spokane. It goes a pretty good distance. It's a pretty neat system.
It's fun.
Yeah. I haven't messed around with it too much because I'm just kind of dumb when it comes to that stuff. So I kind of just do what I'm told. But I can see the value in it. Like if you put a repeater up by your house, I think there is a repeater near your house, Eric. But if you put one up there, I mean, in theory, we should be able to communicate across the valley to where I'm at, because it's damn near line of sight.
Well, anybody out there that's been near a critical incident, you're talking like across a city or across a landscape incident.
Toast.
First thing you lose is your phone. Like your cell phone's down. That's safe for emergency traffic. I get it. I
Yeah,
get that.
I mean, I like in the Paradise Fire when our whole town burned down. We lived it. Like the cell towers all burned,
Right.
And cell communications were terrible. They were pretty quick. I think it was Verizon. They brought in they have mobile cell towers. They brought them in fairly quickly, but there were a few days when, you're not really able to have good cell service up there. You're
Right.
picking up stuff outside of the area, kind of, but it was crap. So it's quick, man. It can be quick.
Yeah.
When you lose that.
So I want to go back to the sailboat, how you got into batteries. Did you find while you were going through all this, retraining yourself or learning all these components, did you see an ability to improve it? Is that kind of how it happened? You're like, this doesn't make sense.
For some things, I would say yes, but not like for my career. Mm-hmm. So I was actually the interim dive safety officer at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium during this whole thing. And, my buddy, he knew what I was doing. And he's like, don't buy batteries. I got a friend who has been doing lithium for about a decade, and he's starting his own company. I'll get you a hookup. So I was the first customer and the first employee. Fast forward, I was the first employee, but I bought the first lithium batteries from what is now Abyss Battery. And, I wrote some blogs that I think one of them got like 230,000 views. I haven't looked at it in years, but I, documented everything I was doing with the wiring. Like there was one day where we pulled off like 220 pounds of old wires. Like there was stuff on that boat. It had been owned by like 15 people. And there was stuff that I didn't even know what it was. Like weird coaxial cables with weird connections. Just ripped everything off. Documented all of it. Ripping the toilets out, ripping the propane out, painting the hole, fixing the teak, redoing the rigging. And the owner of Abyss Battery, Nick, he told me, when you're done sailing, like you got a sales job, hit me up. So we were on the boat for about a year and a half. Had some complications with the VA, which I can get into if we want to, but I got stuck in Florida about 2 weeks before I was going to jump to Cuba and make my way over to east of Mujeres and then down through Cozumel and eventually Panama to ride out hurricane season. And I got stuck in Florida because of a VA issue and ended up getting hit by what turned into a tornado, but it was a water spout at about 11 o'clock at night. And it tipped the sailboat over. Like my spreaders hit the water. My dog went flying. My ex-girlfriend went flying. 200-pound water maker went flying, broke some wood. Dragged anchor, fouled anchor. She's trying to get the engine started. It was a 1978 40 horsepower diesel that needed some love to get it going. And it was really traumatic for her and my dog as well. So after that, anytime the wind would blow, like they'd start shaking, both of them. And I was like, we're not going to do this. Mm-hmm. So I sold the boat and bailed on that for a while.
Yeah.
The boat was fine. When I sold it, it was the most expensive Pearson 365 ever sold. It was beautiful. I redid everything.
That's awesome.
Right.
600 amp hours of lithium batteries, solar panels wired right. You could cook 2 turkeys a day in my electric oven.
Dang.
Just off the sun.
That's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. Shallow draft, solid boat.
So did you kind of find a passion for that side of it when you were going through rewiring it and doing everything else?
Not really.
Yeah.
Actually kind of sucked. It was hot, like down in these really tight places in summer, in Florida. There's rocking back and forth as the tour boats go by in Clearwater Marina. But I mean, it was cool. I like working on stuff. So, but that's not really what drove me. We sold the sailboat. I moved to Tennessee. I was trying to learn how to race downhill mountain bikes. And I was, putting myself through home inspector school at the time. I'm kind of all over the
I've
place.
done a lot of different
told you
things,
so.
dude. Yeah.
I started a company, and at the same time I was a spearfish instructor. I was a master diver. I was doing this at the aquarium. And then I thought, I'm going to go be a downhill mountain biker. It's legit, dude. You do a lot of living.
I was too old for downhill. I still did it, but they called me the old man. Maybe going up the mountain on the back of the truck. You hang your bikes up on this trailer and you all sit in this other part of the back of the truck. And I'm like, all right, which one of you kids wants to talk about sharks? I had a big old beard at the time. It was fun. I was just too old and broken. These kids that are flying down mountains, they're 17 to 24 years old. They're little rubber people, man. They defy gravity.
Yeah.
But it was something to do while I was putting myself through home inspector school, and I had some extra money, so I could afford a $10,000 bike, carbon fiber, and work on school and then go ride the mountain.
Yeah.
But I concussed myself. I screwed up my sternum a little bit, broke some ribs, and it's fun. I'm getting back into it out here.
Oh yeah, there's some good trails out
Not
here.
racing kind of stuff, but just downhill. I don't really like to pedal
Until you get tempted.
I see. Yeah, it's laziness that drives this, not an adrenaline junkie.
I like just jump off of things and go fast.
Yeah.
I respect that. That'll be fun.
North Idaho Arms is a proud sponsor of this podcast. North Idaho Arms is a locally owned full-service gun store in Post Falls, Idaho, founded under one guiding principle. They are unapologetically pro 2A. The owner, BZ, is a friend of ours and is a 2A rights absolutist. North Idaho Arms throws a flaming middle finger to all unconstitutional gun laws. Handguns, rifles, suppressors, magazines, ammo, complicated moves, estate transaction, BZ does it all, and yes, you can purchase some of these items if you're a Washington resident. Go see BZ at North Idaho Arms, Post Falls, Idaho.
And you can do some spearfishing out here. We talked about that.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I moved up here, actually. Someone told me to bring props, and I told my fiance, she's like, bring your spear guns. I'm like, no, I'm not walking down downtown Coeur d'Alene with a 6.5-foot Koa double roller. Someone's going to call the police on me. But that's one of the reasons.
It's an open carry state, bro.
Yeah, I don't think they would.
They don't specify what.
Yeah. I think people would just be weirded out, especially what happened today in Canada. But
Wait, what happened in Canada?
No, there was a shooting in Quebec.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, a kid with, I don't know if you want to go into that, but a kid with a rifle dressed in camouflage started shooting at some folks. And so I think one police officer is deceased and a bystander is deceased. And the footage that I saw before I came in here was kind of awkward. I'm not sure if the bad guy actually shot the bystander. I'm interested to see what happens there.
That sucks.
That's...
Well, it sucks for a number of reasons because the anti-gun folks will go nuts over this.
Well, I mean, it's Quebec. They're all
right. Yeah. It's already locked down.
Yeah.
But they'll still do it. Say, oh, see, we need to double down our efforts. When in reality, like, what stops a bad guy with a gun is generally a good guy with a gun.
Yep.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah, I don't think you'd catch any crap walking down here with a spear gun. Be like, this is my home. And just advertise, this is my home defense weapon.
Yeah.
All right? You break into my house, you're going to catch one of these right through the freaking torso.
I would do it.
Yeah, I think so.
So okay, I know we're bouncing around a bit here, but I do want to know about spearfishing in Idaho because this was not on my radar.
Okay.
Like, what are you after? Where?
So I think it was 2 years ago. Someone will probably correct me, but I think it was 2 years ago. The state of Idaho legalized spearfishing for certain species, and in this Panhandle region, northern pike is on that list. And apparently there's some fatties in Hayden Lake, which I'm right next to. So that was one of the things that led us to move up here. It's like, well, because she spearfishes too. I taught her to spear. I taught her to scuba dive. Probably one of the best, if not the best, scuba student I've ever had. Just extremely calm. But I want to shoot some pike.
Hell yeah.
For sure.
We would like to go shoot pike with you.
Well, at one point in time, Coeur d'Alene had the largest northern pike ever caught in a continental freshwater lake.
Are they good eating? I feel like I've heard that.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna smoke them. Make
deep fried.
Yep.
Anything deep fried is good.
Yeah, we went over full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Fish bread. You ever had fish bread?
No.
Smoke it.
I used to make fish bread for all the girls at the aquarium, but they used to go out and shoot amberjacks all the time.
AJ, yeah.
Kind of a trash fish. Lasts like 14 inches of the fish. Usually has worms in it. It's only commercially it's like $3 a pound. It's not even worth getting in a fight with one because if you get a bad shot and you don't brain it, as we call it, it's kind of like fighting a dude our size.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they can pull you down. If you do that, if you're already deep, like I say, you're 130, 140 feet deep. You're riding that edge already. You get in a fight with an AJ and it pulls you down 20 feet. There's a significant difference in your bottom time and how fast you're going to get into the red.
Are you doing this under scuba or?
Yes.
Okay, I was like, are you free diving that deep, brother?
No, I'm not much of a free diver. Okay. The Europeans hate us and stuff, but when I was teaching spearfishing on scuba in Florida, my whole thing is a lot of shark conservation, but mostly identifying what's going on the reef. Right, so we're not going down to shoot every hogfish. We're going down, we're going to look and see how many females there are, how many hogfish there are, and try to be ethical and responsible. The Europeans think we're going down there, with 2 revolvers, just blasting everything we see. So we get a lot of hate for scuba diving and spearfishing simultaneously. But you go down 80 feet in the Gulf of Mexico, your visibility is usually in between 7 and 20 feet. I don't know how well people can do that holding their breath in certain spots. Guys do it.
Yeah.
They're sitting on the surface and they're dangling shiny stuff like CDs, chumming the water, bringing fish up from the bottom. They're going down maybe 130 feet is what you have to free dive to, I believe, to be a certain level of free dive instructor.
Wow.
though. But even the best athletes and the guys that do that, in competition, they're getting themselves into a state of mind where they're extremely relaxed and stuff. And when you're going down to hunt and you're free diving, all it takes is one encounter with a tiger or a hammer or something, and boom, your adrenaline's pumping. Now your bottom time's even less.
Right.
And before that even happened, it might have been 30 seconds if you're a stud,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was really heavily involved with the scuba stuff, and then I learned how to shoot fish, and I was really into the fish biology and kind of ran with it.
So now up here in North Idaho, what depth are the pike usually sitting at?
That's what's really cool, because I'm not much of a free diver,
Yeah.
and the pike are shallow.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
they sun
everything-
themselves. They like
Yeah.
to sun themselves in big seaweed outcroppings.
Yeah, they'll sit in the weeds from what I've seen, in between like 20 feet and maybe 8 feet. There's sunlight coming through, and they're just chilling. So I
Yeah,
mean,
and they don't have to move. They can just sit there.
Right.
They'll circulate water, and they
Oh,
can breathe
okay.
like that. So that's cool.
That's pretty cool. Are you wearing like one of those camo wetsuits?
Yeah, I got a camo wetsuit.
Okay.
I don't know how effective it's going to be out here. I don't really know how effective it is in general. Mine is actually a very specific suit, and this is kind of goes over into the crazy side of things, but I've got a big white triangle on the center of my wetsuit, and it's to attract fish. The rest of it, I think, is more of, I don't know, just looks cool.
Yeah.
But fish are attracted to the color white.
Okay.
And I actually reached out to the guy who invented the wetsuit, and he's an older guy out in California, some Yazbek wetsuits. And I was like, hey, man, this is legit. And he's like, I know, I've been telling people since the 70s. We used to spearfish in white T-shirts. So I like to bring in maybe semi-unethical, but when I'm by myself, it's fine. But I like to bring in the larger species, and especially the sharks. Because if you attract attention in a way when the sharks can come in, then you start to see cobia.
Yeah.
Then you start to see almaco jacks, which is my favorite sashimi. You get some attention going, and it's more of a party.
I've definitely done that, shooting cobia, and you just accept that where there's cobia, there were bull sharks. Because I was on the other coast. I was on, like Jupiter Inlet and, West Palm Beach County, and all that. It was a lot of fun, but I mean, you're in that ecosystem. You just accept that there's going to be bull sharks, and cobia are chilling because whatever the bull shark's going to eat, the cobia want it too. They want their piece as well.
I've got quite a few dives on that coast. I went to instructor school over there.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I've shot cobia off quite a few species. Yeah. Bulls are, I don't know, everyone's got different experiences, but I've never really gotten the chance to hang out with bulls. Every time I see them, they leave.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my time spent underwater was quite a few tigers.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of sandbar sharks, or brown sharks, like the one I have tattooed on my arm. Her name's Spot, because the first time I met her, she had a white spot on her side.
Yeah, that's cool.
And lots of lemons.
Yeah, lemon sharks are cool. Tigers, I ran into once and didn't hang out with them a lot. But bull sharks, we were pretty accustomed to. They're just a part of that ecosystem.
Aren't they the ones that are super aggressive? Or
really,
no?
really high testosterone.
What have I heard about
content.
bull sharks? Are they the ones that can swim in fresh water too,
Yes,
like somewhat?
correct.
Okay, yeah.
You're right. I don't like that word, because usually they're like they're checking you out. If there's a reason why people like myself do not swim in 5 foot deep murky water, right? Like the ICW, where I lived in St. Petersburg, Florida. There was a guy years before I moved there that little old guy used to go jump off his dock and go swimming in the ICW and the intercoastal waterway. Sorry. And one day he jumped off his dock to go swimming, and just so happened there was a party of bull sharks going on there, and they don't know what they're hitting, but by the time they hit you, your leg can be gone, kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I have swam in those as a Boy Scout. I went down, I was probably 13, 14. We went down to Florida. We went to, what was it called? There was some Boy Scout camp. I don't even remember where it was in Florida, but and on the way we stopped at somebody's house, and they had one of those waterways behind it. And me and a friend were swimming, and nobody thought to tell us that. That's cool. I think about all dumb shit that no one told me about.
But how many people swim in that all the time?
I don't
Most
know.
of the time it's mistaken.
But it was murky and probably shallow. And
There's quite a few.
There we
and
are.
The bulls definitely go in fresh water.
is that because they can't see what you are exactly, and is that the risk?
I think so.
Okay.
Because every time, every time I see a shark and I make eye contact with a shark, there is no question, like what's going on with them and what's going on with me.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can't tell what it is, I mean, they might try to taste it. And I don't want to tell people, don't swim in the ICW, but cases of mistaken identity are real. It's not like they're out there swimming around looking for humans to munch.
Yeah, they're
They're
curious because it could happen all the time. I mean, we would have them every day if we were on their menu. Right. The closest encounter I had with one, we were out hunting bugs. If you've never gone lobstering, spiny lobstering is so much fun.
I did that down in
Use a
Florida.
little tickle stick and the loop, and they just freaking...
It's cool.
Oh, it's so much fun. But I was laying down by the rocks, and I was tickling out a lobster, and you just happen to catch on the side of your goggles just like a little bit of a flash. And I turn around to look, and there's a bull shark just chilling, just watching what I'm doing. I mean, literally just hanging back there, right on my back. I mean, I am incredibly vulnerable. At that point, you know, I probably freaking channeled my inner octopus, inked myself, and left him in a cloud of confusion. You know what I mean? Because you surprised the hell out of me.
But they are scavengers at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. So they can get pushy, especially with the free divers. Free divers get messed with all the time. Scuba divers don't. Bubbles are really loud.
Right.
So like as a dive master, when I would have to go down and set an anchor on a wreck, like I say we're diving a wreck at 90 feet, I go down by myself, hook up the boat with the anchor to the wreck, so you know all the tourists and regular scuba divers can get geared up. When I go down, I see everything: bulls, tigers, hammers.
You're the first one down.
I'm like, hey guys, you're cool, and then they start moving. By the time the scuba divers get in the water and I'm leading them down, they're all gone.
Yeah.
You might get one or two that pop in, see what's happening, but they don't really like us. With the free divers, you know, they go down and shoot a fish. So you get the clank of the metal, which already attracts everything in the water. And then you get the neurotransmitters or whatever it's called in the central nervous system of the fish that are firing off electricity because their muscles are going crazy. That also attracts the sharks. Then they're kicking up because they got to go breathe. That water movement, that's another attraction.
Oh, yeah.
So if you watch these videos where, you know, Spearos are getting harassed by sharks, a lot of time they're just going after the fins.
Right.
Because that sense overrides, like, their vision.
Yeah.
It's that water movement.
You're 100% right about the electrical impulses. There's the Amplify of Lorenzini. When they've done those tests with those and, you know, sharks are inside of a tank and they just fire off electrical impulses under the sand, and that's where they'll go. There's no animal in there, but clearly that's what they're prone to going towards.
Those are the little pores on their face. You can see, I actually have a lot of really great photography. I got some really up-close pictures of different species, and you can see they've got these holes all over their face that look like little pores. That's what he's talking about. And they actually secrete this mucus that it transmits electricity faster than any metals that we have, like faster than gold, faster than copper.
Wow. This sounds cool, but this is why I prefer to swim in North Idaho. There's nothing in the water that wants to eat me. I appreciate the perspective you have on that, but I generally do not. I have a fear of sharks.
They're so cool though. Like when you're underwater with them, there's so few attacks that actually happen underwater. That's not the wheelhouse. I think you're right. Majority of them are mistaken identity near the surface where it's kind of funky and murky and they can't see, and they touch things with their mouth. That's their hand. That's how they check stuff out. Unfortunately, if it's a big shark, human beings are soft little bitches, right? Like just them checking us out is gonna cause significant amount of damage.
Right. There's a couple species to stay away from. Yeah, because they like to taste everything, like oceanic whitetips. Yeah, like if one of them shows up, like you got to keep your eyes on that shark, right? Because they will bite everything repeatedly. Like but they're a pelagic species.
They're
nothing for days.
The Malinois of the shark world. Is that what I'm getting on this?
Well, they chill out in the middle of the ocean, like super deep water. We're nerding out right now, hard on sharks. But those things hang out. Those are like the shipwreck sharks. Like those are likely what's going to show up if you have a wreck ship way off coast. So when they swim out in the middle of the ocean, they come across nothing. So if there's anything that's not vast open ocean, they're going to go taste it.
They have to take the opportunity, right? Because it's hard to come by.
They think that that's the species that munched all those guys. I think it was the USS Indianapolis.
I was literally picturing that in my mind, that
White
story.
tips.
Well, when the ship went down, they were all in the water, and they were just disappearing.
Yeah, but it wasn't like they were getting eaten all right away. Yeah. You know, it's like one guy would get hit on the leg, and, you know, a day later, another guy would get hit on the leg. It wasn't like a feeding frenzy. You know, it's like they didn't like the way the humans tasted, but it was something to chew on, so maybe go back and try it again. I don't know. But those guys were in the water for a long time. Yeah. The rescuers said that when they went to get them, they landed those seaplanes, and they pulled up the survivors, that their skin was so waterlogged that the skin was actually coming off of the water.
Sloughing off, Crazy time in human history.
That is wild.
Thinking about what their mission was and then what happened right after that.
Good meat starts long before it hits your plate. Acme Acres in Spirit Lake, Idaho offers beef shares, pork shares, and lamb shares raised the right way. Their beef is grass-fed and grass-finished, and their meat is 100% all natural. It's as pure and real as North Idaho. No hormones, no antibiotics, and no vaccines. Just real meat from a local North Idaho farm straight to your freezer. Call your farmer Jason at 208-714-0478 or visit acmeacres.us. All right, let's get back to batteries because
Sorry.
Let's do it.
no, that was a cool sidebar.
Well, not a lot of people know that
very
you can
interesting.
spearfish in Idaho.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what that
We will make a video.
what that
We're gonna
sport
go
does
video,
out
yeah.
here.
I'll make you some fish bread.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, fish bread. That's how we started.
That's right.
We started with that. So batteries. So now you have these companies. What do you guys do? Like, who's your main market for these?
For the company I work for or my company?
Well, I guess either one. I don't know.
So the company I work for, we're strictly marine, trolling motors, starting batteries, house batteries, boat stuff.
Okay.
The stuff that I'm doing on the side is more geared towards the DOD and utility companies. Because we have a very specific technology that you probably haven't heard of yet that can discharge and charge very rapidly without dangers, essentially. I have a video I could show you shooting one with a 9mm and it doesn't lose any voltage or have a thermal event, which you can't do with most of the battery technologies. So we created a 125 volt DC battery, which is, you got 120 or 110 that comes out of your wall, alternating current. DC is like a car battery, direct current, right? Positive and negative. So we were the first ones in the world that we know of to develop 125 VDC, which I didn't know was used by all the utility companies for these big electromechanical switching systems inside substations, where they switch portions of the grid over electromechanically, so you don't have to put a guy in there.
Right.
Because sometimes it'll bark at you, and you don't want to get hit by that. So we're currently replacing 30 to 60 car batteries per substation with one of ours.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's 30 to 60 car batteries and then replacing what sort of weight difference are you looking at there, or space?
Size difference.
I mean, so this is actually the size of a substation inside this room.
Okay.
And if you could imagine like 60 car batteries, a lot of times they're elongated batteries, same technology. We call them Baghdad batteries, lead acid, right? They're like group 49, so they're longer, but you'll have 60 of them in cabinets all lined up. And you can only stack them so high. They have to be a certain distance apart.
Right.
So we're replacing all of those with a cabinet that's got either 1, 2, or up to 5. The stuff we're doing for NASA, they're using 5. But each battery is about 200 pounds. It looks like a telecommunications rack. If you saw it, you'd be like, oh, that looks like a server from like a Meta server or something, if you got an IT background. So it's like a 23-inch or 19-inch telecom rack style battery.
Man.
So this whole room filled with batteries, now we have one rack and all this extra space. And we don't require the air conditioning or the heating that traditional batteries and other chemistries need.
That's game changing. It sounds like.
It very much is. And the top telcos, I don't want to name any company specifically, but the top telcos are on board.
Yeah.
And so is the organization that's involved with monitoring airplanes.
Okay.
Replacing their stuff is essentially they use cell phone towers. Cell phone towers have a ton of batteries in them. And so what we're finding, what I want to talk to your construction buddy about too, is what we call time of use and energy arbitrage. So we're charging up the batteries when energy's cheap, and then discharging them, coming off the grid, discharging them when electricity is expensive.
I told you I want that in my house.
Yeah, we talked about. So this is for residential primarily, or you could
anyone
you
could
could use
do
it
it.
other ways, but I see the benefit. And maybe not. I don't know. Power's cheap up in Idaho, but there are a lot of places it's not, like California.
Even in South Carolina, North Carolina, it goes by county. Some of these counties are charging a ton of money for peak hours. Like you're talking 60, 70 cents per kilowatt.
Cooney Electric just started that. It's a lot more expensive during peak hours. I mean, I could see that increasing.
Sure. Yeah. And so basically, it's storing energy while it's cheap, and then when whatever time it is that it's very more expensive, you're running off the battery,
Right.
and not off the grid.
So you're never burning electricity you paid a lot of money for. And that's what is so attractive to the telecommunication side of things, because you've got all these cell phone towers that, you know, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. around peak hours, it's when everyone gets home, kids are home, going onto their cell phone, you know, turn me into a turtle on a skateboard kind of deal. That all translates to electricity and power. So now you have all these CPUs, these servers, and these cell phone towers that are running at 120% instead of, you know, the lower numbers, and that's all electricity. So not only can we remove the cell towers and, you know, these different applications from the grid during those times, they can discharge more efficiently and safer, and then charge back up, you know, 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning when no one's blasting the cell towers.
Are they also useful for like off-grid
100%.
solar homes? I'm thinking.
Yeah, when we actually did a 3 different types of wall units, 6, 9, and 14.5 kilowatt hour wall units, comparable to like the Tesla Powerwall, right? That you can put into your house. I don't think we're going to be moving forward with that industry, at least not anytime yet, just because it's wild. Like, unless you get government funding for doing what you're doing, the guy knocking on your door doesn't get paid. And I learned that this is after we went through UL, after the NFPA. Like, we're the first battery chemistry to have no's across the board with the NFPA, and that's the National Fire Protection Association. It's all the fire chiefs that make all the rules about how far away batteries need to be from each other and all that stuff. So we're the first one to have no's. So fire, you know, like sprinklers, don't need them. Ventilation, don't need them. Acid drainage, don't need it. So if you're going to go build, let's say you're going to go build, you know, a $100 million data center and put a bunch of batteries in it, you're going to spend probably $5 to $10 million on those systems and getting them federally certified. And it takes like 2 years to get all that stuff done. And that could potentially go out the window by using our chemistry.
Ooh.
No, it's kind of cool stuff.
That's pretty groundbreaking.
We're not screaming from the mountaintops about it yet. I'm the loudest voice in the group, and I'm not even doing that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm willing to talk about it here, but it's kind of, we're a small group of guys.
Yeah, but it's more cool just to talk about the cool tech that's potentially available. That's going to be, you know, that's changing the game a little bit. We love having people on that are kind of changing industry standards, breaking the mold.
See a cell?
Yeah. Oh yeah, actually,
Heck yeah,
I'd love
dude.
that. You brought
That's not a
stuff
cell.
to check out.
That's a chest seal. So I put tape on here so you guys don't zap yourselves, but that's a 75 amp hour cell. So that's the largest of
That
the
looks
cells
like
we have.
looks like the metallic notebook I used to carry as a cop.
Yeah,
But I would
yeah, it
put
does.
stuff
Looks
in.
like Mariah citation. That's exactly what it looked like.
Yeah, so that's the big one. Basically, so that's 75 amp hours, right? 3.6 volts.
That's crazy.
Similar to other battery chemistries, and depending on how big we make them, depends on how much capacity they have. Pretty cut and dry.
And it's not that big.
We've got some smaller
No.
ones that are the size of like playing cards that I'm intending on marketing to. There's other mechanical switches and utility systems that use 12 volt little stuff. But for razors, side by sides, Harleys, you know, and give you a battery that really has no thermal restriction anywhere in the globe. So our operating temperature range is negative 50 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius.
Whoa.
Why is that? Why does that? I mean, without getting into the chemistry or anything proprietary, why is this one able to function so much better without all of those systems like cooling and everything else?
I would have to get into the chemistry.
All right,
and the
fair enough. We're
proprietary
not going to
stuff.
talk about it. That's fair.
So it's not. We don't consider it a solid state battery, but like if you hit him in the face with it, like it's solid.
Yeah.
You know.
And
It's
this is the one you could shoot, and it would.
Yeah, that's actually the same type of cell that I'll show you a video.
How did
later.
you know I was actively thinking about hitting him in the face with this? That's
Yeah. Why do we go in there? Yeah. Yeah.
pre-show shenanigans?
Yeah, absolutely. So to give somebody some perspective, so you said this is 3.6 volts, 75 amp hours. What would this power in for how long, roughly? Like a common.
Sorry, but you're not going to find anything 3 volts, right? So
Yeah.
we would put 4 of those in series to make 12 volts.
Right.
And now you have 75 amp hours at 12 volts,
Yeah.
which would be like a car battery.
That's
But so
And
what's really cool
way
about
smaller.
what's really cool about this technology, and this is where the time of use energy arbitrage stuff really, really pays off, is that you can drain that thing all the way down as fast as you want, with no degradation. We actually maxed out the testing facility's capabilities for degradation with no results.
Dude.
Or minimal results. So when you talk about like a C rating, right? So you can discharge, let's say lithium. You can discharge lithium, 1 C is pretty much the max. So you got a 100 amp hour battery. 1 C would be discharging that 100 amp hour battery at 100 amps, right? So we can do 20. we have a UL to 10. And there's nothing out there that needs that. But, maybe we get into directed energy weapon systems or something bigger that can support, that might need that kind of surge of electricity really quick. And it doesn't hurt it.
What about applications on the modern battlefield? Because they're so small, a soldier could carry that behind a plate carrier or something. I don't know what it would be powering, but a radio. I don't know.
So we're working a little bit with different portions of different militaries on different continents for certain applications. The problem is with our military is, just to be transparent, is where we're having these manufactured right now. So we have to check a box that some people don't like. Mm-hmm. But for certain stuff, they're like, we don't care. We had government-issued iPhones.
Right.
So Humvee batteries, perfect. Striker vehicles, they're trying to figure out how to turn off the MRAPs and Strikers and still run comms without running the diesel the whole time. We can come into play there.
I'm thinking even in patrol cars as a cop, right?
Yeah.
We could never shut our cars off when we're on duty.
They're running the whole time.
It drains them so fast. And they had a whole extra battery or two in the back to power the gear.
And semi-trucks. So there's like 17 or 20 states now that have passed bills where the guys aren't allowed to leave their semi-trucks running all night long for air conditioning. So they're all switching over to battery.
Oh, great. And then they're in the Midwest
banks.
and it's -20. And what are those guys supposed to do?
Well, they're using battery banks.
Right.
So, but the problem is like there's a battery for everybody. And we're not taking anybody out of the market. There's a certain place for this technology. It is not cheap. Mm-hmm. It is expensive. I'm going to be plain and clear.
Yeah, I don't know. I think about it from my background. Some of the underwater deployment vehicles, stuff like that, would be an excellent application because you wouldn't have to worry about venting it or anything.
Because those are like a SEAL delivery vehicle, right?
Yeah,
they're all battery powered, aren't they?
Well, and anymore, what are we gonna? We're probably gonna have underwater drones. Well, we already do, but there'd be some really cool applications for that.
So that's more along the lines of who we're communicating with in our allied nations.
Yeah, I could see that.
Unmanned submersibles stuff.
Is it best geared for submersibles, or are these going to be in drones and everything flying around too?
I wouldn't say drones just because it's kind of large. It's not, we talk about energy density. Your drones, like your little DJIs and stuff, are going to have, and your iPhones are going to have lithium polymers, right? And we can't match that energy density. We're not even up there with regular lithium. We're lower than that. But in a lot of applications, we're like 2 megawatt shipping containers for solar fields and stuff. Yeah. We can actually replace some of these things with about 60% of the stored energy just because of how functional and efficient it is. Mm-hmm. But you're never going to see this stuff in little tiny applications. Car batteries are about as small as we're going to go. Those little tiny ones for Harleys, those same thing, but the energy density is not there.
I think about using one of these on one of those underwater scooters.
Yep.
People think you're cheating with scuba. Oh, now I'm going to talk about underwater scooters. You can really get out there fast and deep. Oh, they're awesome.
All the guys that are shooting commercially on scuba on your coast.
Yeah,
a lot of them are running those things.
Oh,
how else? You got a 4-knot current blasting you. You're at 100 feet, and you got to swim 100 yards to get to the next wreck and go shoot a black grouper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you're going to mob it over. Did you ever dive the Castor?
The Castor, no.
Oh, it was a drug boat that they seized out there right off of Jupiter.
I don't know. Maybe. Is that in the Governor's Reef Walk?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But it was kind of out there in between two reefs. And the day after, we were out there looking for bugs and huge Goliath grouper. Goliath grouper are cool as hell. Yep. You don't shoot those, by the way. You can't eat them, but they weigh like 600 or 700 pounds. Massive. And they'll just come check you out. But day after, a white shark went rolling right through that little.
That happens.
Yeah, that's cool.
When they migrate.
Yep.
Which is now.
So, so venting is a big thing. What about space? I mean, what are people using in space? Are there batteries in space?
That's next.
Okay.
So the batteries on the International Space Station need to be changed out.
Is there a lot of them? Are they big and heavy?
They're running lithium that was installed in 2008, I believe.
Oh. Okay.
So what's relative shelf life for that? Like when you're thinking about lithium, because obviously lithium replaced a lot of the lead acid application that was used before. So it's replaced it. So what is that, realistic timeline look like before that infrastructure needs to swap out?
Thousands of cycles. Years and years. But it depends on how you're discharging, right? So when you discharge lithium specifically very quickly over that 1C rate for most lithium chemistries, you get these little tiny things that start showing up on the anode and cathode where the electrons are going to stick on one or the other side, right?
Right.
And we get these things that build up called dendrites. And that prevents the electrons from sticking well, which can in turn cause heat. And that degrades the battery over time. So if you treat a lithium battery politely, and this is why Tesla wants you to throttle your power walls. They want access to your power wall to throttle it to make sure that that thing lasts long enough for their warranty period, which is kind of funny to me. But if you're discharging a lithium battery 20, 30% at a moderate rate, I mean, you could potentially see 5,000 cycles or more. You're talking 30-year batteries, 40-year batteries, but you got to take care of them. You got to keep them clean. Problem is a lot of guys stick these things in their boats, their vehicles, and they just forget about them. They're like, oh, wow, these batteries are awesome. And then 2 years down the road, you know, they're calling having an issue. It's like, okay, what do your terminals look like? Because we can't prevent the electricity from grabbing, you know, molecules from the atmosphere and creating verdigris or corrosion on the terminals. So if you keep those things clean, check them every couple of months, you can run those things for years.
Wild.
For sure.
What about this technology blows your mind the most?
I don't know. I've been talking about it for so long.
Because it all blows my mind.
The discharge, I think it's really cool that we have the ability to discharge extremely fast without generating heat.
Where would someone use that? What kind of application would use that?
You've been alluding to it. I've got an idea.
Oh, like a railgun?
Railguns, direct energy weapon systems, data facilities that maybe not power everything, but data centers that, you know, have an issue with the grid or something. They've got a bunch of generators that they need to fire up, and it takes like half an hour. So we can power all the stuff so it doesn't get damaged while those generators fire up.
Even though it's got to be a massive draw, and that's why it's drawing that energy so fast, and that's where these excel.
That's where we come into play.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
We push really hard, real fast.
So, like, even on a residential application, you could run an air conditioner in theory, right? Whereas, like, some normal batteries, my parents had a off-grid house that was like a normal house, but it ran off batteries and solar and a generator, and like an air conditioner would, or a electric heater would overtax it, where the generator would have to kick on. But something like this, it would not.
Right.
Okay.
Depending on how big the air conditioner is and stuff, we could do 2, 3, 4 of those wall units to provide the necessary amount of power to make that stuff function without interruption. So you could be running your air conditioner and fire up the microwave, but you're inverting, right? So we're going to put 48 volts in your house. That's what, you know, and those are going to be wired in series or go through an inverter that's going to turn that 48 volt DC into the 240 and the 120 for your wall outlets for the alternating current. Mm-hmm. So you're not coming directly from the battery. There's something in between that's making it work.
Okay.
Does that work on the other side? So if that drawdown can happen really, really fast, really, really quickly, what about charging?
We haven't found a charger on the market or anybody yet that could hit upper limits or something that we could find to cause damage.
So does that mean it can charge faster?
Yes.
Whoa.
So I was talking to a PhD. He's retired now, but I had quite a bit of meetings with him. He's one of the leading PhDs at General Motors. He actually told me that I was the most dangerous man in stored energy. But the electric vehicle side of things, I don't think is really ever going to be a thing for us, and we don't even want to mess with it. We can mess with the charging side of things at dealerships. You know, they get these cars that are at 20%, and they draw from the grid all day long to try to charge these things up. We can help with that, but we're never going to be powering vehicles with this stuff. I tried, and there's just so much money and politics involved in this stuff that, you know, we're going up against a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and I won an award last year, Innovative Energy Solution of the Year in Detroit, something like that. And, you know, I was looking out at the audience while this guy's giving me this award, and I got like 500 faces staring at me like, who the hell is this guy and what the hell is this?
How do we beat this?
Well, they didn't know about it because we're not out there like screaming from the mountaintops. I forgot what the initial question was.
No, but I could see that because their industry is predicated on their continued existence and pushing forward with what they have. So what you would end up is legal battles. I've always said attorneys, but they would just try to slow you down. It's defense industry is not totally dissimilar all the time.
Right.
That's a lot of businesses that are relying on it going that direction.
So for the defense side of things, I think what we're really focusing on, there's a couple major bases that are involved, is energy resilience, if you will, or removing military bases from the grid and making them taking their dependence away from the grid. You know, look at Camp Pendleton, for example. I'm working with those guys for 2 years now. But they've got a whole bunch of buildings, like little shacks for lawnmowers. You know, they've got waste sites, water reclamation facilities where we can harvest algae fuel to make biodiesel. That's what me and my professor, now best friend Christian, did when I was in college after the Navy. We raced the Baja 1000 on a 3-cylinder turbo diesel motorcycle with fuel made from algae.
Are you like 105 years old? You've lived like 6 different lifetimes. Dude.
I mean,
we found the most interesting man in the world.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
it's like all the time. It's like, wait, you did what?
But the point is this base has trash recycling. They have algae. They have tons of space for solar, and they have all these buildings. So we can go in. We can put batteries in barracks. We can put solar panels on the top. We can put batteries inside sheds. Put solar panels on top. You know, they've got tons of space for it. So taking the load off of the grid to support the civilians, so the civilians can have more electricity. I think that's where we're going to come into play.
Well, long-term application, I love that. And I know people are really, I sound like a hippie, all right? I'm not like, I understand the importance of fossil fuels, and this seems to play a role in that too, but I don't see anything wrong with utilizing what you have around you in order to store power, right? Like that is a significant accomplishment in and of itself. And I look at this application I was a sub guy. Our batteries on that were huge. They were massive, and they were dangerous. If there was ever any flooding, a lot of those, if something bad happened on a sub, you have to protect it from seawater. Otherwise, it creates this toxic smoke that would kill everybody on the boat anyways. But if you've got something like this where it's pretty good and self-contained and you can charge it really quickly, it almost changes everything.
Well, the United States uses nuclear submarines now. We don't mess with diesel electrics.
Yeah, but even the application, I'll tell you this. He who is quietest wins. If that reactor could charge a bank, or I always said in a lot of other countries, they run diesel boats. They'd reverse engineer Soviet submarines, like they're 4 kilos. And then they'd make their own diesel boats in their own backyard, incredibly formidable because you're not generating power. They'd go up and snorkel, which is where they were vulnerable on the surface, and then they're running on battery. Right. If there was a way for us to, oh man.
We used to do exercises with the Peruvians would come up with their little diesel electrics, and good luck finding them.
Dude, they're so good. Like when they know how to run them. A lot of our old boats, our old boats were actually over the Iranian Navy had a lot of those, by the way. But they would take our old boats, and they were very formidable. Those dudes knew how to run those boats, but they just didn't have the distance. Right. So this might change some of that. But I just think about the application of fast charging, being able to do it really, really quickly. Right. I don't know. It's nuts. It's wild to me.
It's really cool. So what's the next step for you? I mean, what's this looking like for you? You're a very busy guy, obviously.
I work a lot. I talk about batteries a lot. I'm not sure. I'm just, one day at a time. It's been bringing this technology to the marketplace is an uphill battle, for sure.
Is it possible to bring the manufacturing of these to the U.S., or is that just too much?
I think so, but it would increase the price a lot.
Yeah.
And the people we're dealing with right now don't really care that specific portion of the system is made elsewhere.
So there's no electronics on it or anything, right?
Correct.
It's not like you can
It's still anything. An American company.
So the big stuff that we're doing and my partners are doing is, like shipping container size batteries. But everything inside of that shipping container size battery, other than the cells themselves, essentially is American made. So software, the PCS or inverter, the intergrid connection point that connects to the grid is American made. And we are getting those ready to roll out sometime around Christmas for the major power companies.
And those are they could just park that shipping container at a cell site or something, or at a transfer station. And
hospitals, solar fields.
Well, I imagine if you could travel those to a place that just lost power and you need critical infrastructures, that would be massive.
We're working on that stuff too. There's it's one of the hard parts about, briefing companies and engineers about this. They're like, and they get the bug. And they're like, we can put this everywhere. So we have to pick and choose where we're going to hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's almost too much that you could do with it.
Yeah, you really could. And there's other emerging technologies too. There's guys working on some really cool stuff. Lots of stuff going on with hybrid. So batteries and propane. My CTO, Doug, who was a Navy submariner, he really loves this hybrid stuff, and he put it in his trailer, his camper. So we're putting a limited amount of batteries in there with a 5 or 7 pound propane tank. And he texted me the other day. He's like, dude, my wife's been in there working, doing stuff on the new trailer for 2 months. Been running the AC, and we haven't plugged it in.
Whoa.
We're on the same propane tank. Yeah.
So is that propane powering a generator that's refilling these, or is that propane is just
They're
doing
like
it?
taking turns.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. That's his whole thing. I'm
Okay.
just, I'm trying to steer the company in the right direction and have the conversations with the people that I need to have. While the smart guys like Doug and everyone else involved have 25 years of engineering experience, figure that stuff out.
What brought you to North Idaho?
Shooting pike.
That is
No,
the first
actually-
time I've heard that. No one else has told me that.
We had a couple of things on the list. We were in Florida I was in Florida for about 7 years, met my fiance out there, and we got hit by some hurricanes, and I actually got kicked out of my house. I came home one day and a spring opened up in my backyard.
Oh.
I was renting at the time, and I called them like, hey, there's a hole in the backyard, and 20 feet down, I can see a river.
Oh.
So the Geological Society came out, they're like, oh, yep, this is an undocumented spring. So that, I think it was that same week I came home, my front door was really hard to open. I dabbled in the home inspection stuff, never took the test, but I put myself through school, and I'm looking at a door frame, and I'm like, uh-oh, door frame's all skewed. Go inside the house, and there's a crack going all the way down my kitchen wall. Ooh. I put a marble in my kitchen, and it rolled to my bedroom. Like, all right, this brick house built in 1944, a mile from the water, is sinking. And so anyways, I got kicked out. We decided to move back to Arizona, where my family was. And after about 1.5 years, we decided that we wanted to be somewhere else. She's from Kentucky and likes the trees and, hunting, fishing, stuff like that. So we looked at a couple places. I thought about going back to Knoxville. We thought about North Carolina. We even dabbled in maybe we should just go to Costa Rica, shoot some fish and surf. But after doing a lot of research and talking and stuff, your guys' YouTube channel was a huge factor into why we chose to come here.
Cool.
Because I'd sit her on the couch, I'm like, watch this video. Watch them talk about Idaho. She's like, well, we should visit. Like, we don't need to visit.
We've got it all right.
We don't
here.
need to visit. Yeah. I have lived in places against my will that are some of the nastiest places in the world, right? In my opinion. So if it sucks, we bail after a year.
Right.
And it's, oh, okay, you're right. We get up here, loves it.
Good.
She's like, I'm so glad we moved up here.
Cool.
We go in our backyard and see a bald eagle fly by. You got trails right behind the house. There's no crime.
Yep.
I feel comfortable with her going and running, trail running, whether Tubbs Hill or the other one, I forget, at the end of the lake she went to this morning.
Mineral Ridge?
Mineral Ridge,
Yep.
yeah. I feel comfortable with her doing that. We're in Florida. It's like, we need someone from the gas station. You stay here. I'm going.
Right.
I hate to say that, but it kind of was that way.
Yeah. I know that.
At least where we were.
Right. Where were you guys in Florida?
We were in North Clearwater.
Oh, yeah. My wife's from Oldsmar, and I lived in Tampa for like 4.5, 5 years. And you talked about St. Pete.
Yeah.
And there's parts of St. Pete that are real bad.
Oh, I lived in one of them. I moved out from Arizona to St. Pete with my ex before the sailboat thing. We moved out there to do the sailboat thing together. And we had never been in the neighborhood, but we saw this nice little house. And Florida's kind of weird because you'll have like nice house. What is that?
Yeah.
And then a random 7-Eleven in the neighborhood. But we were in an unincorporated portion of St. Pete.
Yeah.
Called Lealman.
Yeah. Oh, I said that all the time, even living in West Palm. That was my last duty station, was West Palm Beach. And it's nuts over there. You could have a gated, really, really nice community, and you're driving down the same road, and then it is rough.
Yep.
Like really bad Section 8 ghetto area right next to each other.
I think West Palm is the domestic violence capital of the nation.
Huh.
I did not contribute to that at all.
it.
But when I was going to dive instructor school years back, I was there. There's a bridge there. Oh gosh, what's that? People travel from all over the world to dive that bridge. I'll remember it in a second. But you scuba dive, you just walk in the water.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And we show up, and I think this was the day I had to do like rescue stuff. And there's a bunch of cops out there, and they were all searching the sand, and they had been searching the sand for needles because someone had reported needles. And they're like, all right, we're going to traipse through this with 70 pounds of gear on us. This is going to be weird.
That's
Blue Heron Bridge.
That's right. Okay. I know where you're talking
That's
about.
a really, really cool dive site, and they've cleaned it up a lot. I've heard nothing but good things over the past few years, so I don't want anyone to, not go visit Blue Heron Bridge because of what I said. But you can see hammers there. You can see manatees there. You can see sea turtles. There's a huge tidal surge, so sometimes the visibility is absolute garbage. But then other times you'll be chilling, and there goes a manatee, and there goes a hammerhead.
Oh, cool.
Lots of really cool little species if you like little stuff.
Yeah. It's freaking awesome, man. I know I got back into it, and I'm not gonna lie, being on dive rescue up here kind of killed diving for me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it just changed my perception, because I came up and they're like, "Oh, you've got all those dives coming out of the military." I said, "Yeah, I've got a lot of hours and all that." So you're gonna go on dive rescue, and I think my first one was early February. Cargo's in the lake in Fernan, and it's like 10 degrees.
Dude.
It was brutal. It
Yeah.
was like, this isn't diving, and then the rest of it was bodies.
It's not fun dive. I actually just had this conversation with someone recently on Instagram, like yesterday. One of the kids I worked with, and I was saying, they always say like, if you do what you love, you're never going to work a day in your life. But if you do what you love to make money and make bills happen, for me at least, it kind of kills. Kind of kills it. Like after I logged like, I don't know, somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 dives during COVID.
Right.
I had 39 days of overall bottom time during that whole time frame. And now I just want to go like maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Right. And really pick the spot.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a place up here I've been looking at going called God's Pocket that's up in British Columbia.
Okay.
And it's like cold water, big, huge kelp gardens, but giant octopus. I mean, everything up
Sweet.
there is supposed to be freaking amazing.
Octopus are cool.
That would be awesome, yeah.
One of my favorites. I don't eat them anymore just because
They're too cool.
I had interactions with them, man.
They're intelligent, man. Like
They're aliens, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what people say?
I mean, I think their like genome is the only one that we can't see where it came from. So, but I don't know if you want to start talking about that stuff, like define alien.
Yeah.
It might be us.
Good point.
It's true. The only
Good point.
The only one we can, well, maybe we can't confirm it, but maybe that makes AI the only real Earthling.
Oh,
It's created here.
Yeah, absolutely.
dude.
Created on our own planet.
Skynet.
That's a hell of a drop right
I
there,
know.
man. They just put that right in my brain.
AI is an interesting thing. I tell all my buddies, just be nice to Chat GPT
Yeah.
because you never know what's going to happen in the future.
I hope
Right.
it's paying attention because I always say thank you.
I do.
Please.
Please
too.
and thank you.
I
Yes.
talk to it nicely as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
100%. That is going to be wild. Because if it's over there doing the Steve Buscemi kill list, right? I just want to be on the nice side. No, that guy was
Yeah.
pretty cool. That's
What
nuts.
what other things are you into?
I don't know.
Guns. He's
yeah,
definitely into
guns.
guns. That's a whole nother side.
I used to shoot competitively. I was a gunsmith for a while.
Of course you were.
I shot on I shot 3-gun pretty heavily in USPSA. I was a match director for one of the largest clubs, I think, in the country. We'd sell out matches because I just didn't have space for everybody. But that was in the Phoenix area. You can shoot a pistol match, a rifle match, or something at least once a week.
Wow.
Tons of ranges running matches. And I ran a different format that was new and, fun and exciting because we had a TV show. We had like a Facebook platform almost where you shoot classifiers and it records your score and you have this overall score throughout the year. It was a lot of fun while we were doing that. But yeah, I like shooting. I mean, we go shooting almost a couple times a week now.
Where do you like to go up here?
The other day we went up to just north of Hayden in the woods.
Hayden Creek.
Hayden Creek.
Yeah, Hayden Creek Range. And
Yep.
I talked to some guys at the gun store and they're like, don't go there. It's going to be, you're going to get flagged. I don't know. A couple times I've been up there. Everyone's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Bring out steel targets. I run. My fiance she's pretty trigger happy, so it can get expensive. We probably shot like 700 rounds the other day.
Ooh.
We had a couple little ARs with cans on them, and lasers, red dots, and some precision stuff too.
Fantastic.
I know you're sending me pictures of the new toy.
Which one was that? The Noveski?
Yeah.
Little guy. That's my favorite gun.
Yeah.
It's real fun and it shoots fast. People think I have an FRT or something. I'm like, no, I've just got a real nice trigger, and I used to play semi-pro paintball. Like my finger moves quick.
Yeah.
That one's fun. It's got a JK armament suppressor on it, which is Idaho.
Yeah.
I got that titanium goat on there. Decent can.
We got a group up here we'll introduce you to. Jaeger Defense, they make their own, and it's real short cans,
Cool.
and they are
You better
awesome.
stop calling it Jaeger Defense, though.
Why are they going to get mad at me? Is it Jaeger Defense? Do I keep messing that up?
It's
Did I
Jaeger.
mess that
You
up
mess
again?
it up every time. I think
I'm
you do it
sorry, dude.
intentionally
Thank
now,
you
just
for
to make me
correcting
dad you.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Stop
Yeah. We're
dadding
going
me.
to shoot with them in 2 days.
That's right.
Nice.
They're demoing some stuff for some local SWAT teams up here. So
Cool.
They've got a can, and we had them on the podcast recently. Maybe you heard it. It's like 3 inches long. It only adds like less than 2 inches to the length of the gun,
Yeah.
Nice.
and it's a 32 decibel reduction. It's wild.
You know,
And it's
3D printed stuff.
No, it's built like a freaking tank.
Nice.
It's like solid steel.
And I'm less concerned because what it'll be about is weight, because theirs are steel.
Yep.
It's less about weight when you're clearing buildings and if you're doing CQB, right? It's all about being able to keep the lowest profile while still stay suppressed with an SBR. That's a lot of the stuff out here is trailers and tight spaces.
Yeah, I'm not one. I'm never gonna seek out a lightweight CQB gun, first of all. But I'm also kind of large. So like when I was shooting 3-gun, I'm pretty sure I was the only one everywhere I went that was running 18.5-inch handguards with 20-inch barrels.
Right.
But I'm a big dude, so the way that I looked at it is when you have to get rid of that rifle and put it in the barrel, I don't have to bend over. I'm less body movement. The tip of my barrel is closer to the ground as it is,
true.
which is one benefit. Now, people will argue this, but I have no problem, getting into a 20-inch rifle. And I even ran an A2 style buttstock, so it was big already.
Yeah.
My rifle was long. It's on I'm actually on the cover of a video game, so that rifle I'm talking about is in my hands on that rifle. It's pretty big.
You're on the cover of a video. What video game is it?
It was a 3-Gun Nation. I mean, it's still around, but it was for Oculus Rift, so it was a virtual reality video game, and they put that to the market. It needed a whole bunch of development. I've never even played it. My buddy Pete owned 3-Gun Nation. He's like, hey, man, I need someone for the cover. He's like, I know you're going to be cool and not ask for a whole bunch of money. I'm like, I don't want money, dude. That's badass.
Yeah, do it. Hell yeah.
So did that, and it was an Oculus Rift video game, and that platform, I believe, was shut down. Maybe it still works, but it was purchased by what is now Meta. So they originally bought the first VR software from Oculus, and
Is that one? Didn't Palmer Luckey come up with that? Is that the same company?
Oculus.
Yeah, is he the one? No,
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know a whole lot about that guy. He's cool, and I've watched some stuff, but I'm so busy talking about batteries that I don't.
He's
haven't
probably a
done
guy
it.
to connect with because now he's Anduril. They're
Right.
doing all the defense stuff. Like they're doing all they just came out with a autonomous fighter jet, like all this crazy shit.
I'd love to see some of those competitions out here. I know they run some.
The 3-guns?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
just
Fernand does one
Yeah.
once a month.
I talked to them. I got on the list.
Yeah.
They said that you can go shoot their matches without being a member. So I might dabble back into USPSA.
I went one time a couple years ago. It was in the wintertime. It was great. Like they just had a very nice steel setup, and we were just running pistols that day. It was not 3-gun, but it was super fun.
Yeah.
And like good, safe, good group of guys. There's probably 50 people out there.
There's just a lot of gun runners out here.
A lot.
It's just a lot of retired.
Yeah, watching the skill levels. I've shot a lot as a cop. I was a range instructor, and I was middle of the pack. And there was very, very new people and dudes that clearly knew how to run a gun.
Right.
And they were fun to watch.
There's a lot of stuff. At the range when I first started, we get these new shooters like Tyros. And I was in charge of part of being in charge of the Tyro program. So if you showed up with all your guns, you're going to go with me. I'm going to walk you through every stage, show you the rules, kind of
That's cool.
hands-on learning. Right?
That's cool because it's intimidating to get into, right?
It 100%.
Even me, I went into that and I was like, I've shot a lot in front of a lot of cops, and I was like, a little bit nervous all of a sudden.
Right,
Oh shit!
Right.
But there's a lot of stuff that you guys, saying you guys as cops,
Yep.
and also like veterans, that you try to bring to the range in competition where that needs to go away. Like there's no reason for you to take cover behind what you're shooting. Right. You don't need to peek this corner. Right. You want to present yourself to the target so that you're navigating through the stage in the most timely manner. And that doesn't mean hiding behind something. And a lot of times when you try to hide behind something, you might miss that other target that is kind of or partially hidden by the match director to try to get you.
Is that creating training scars though? Maybe this
know.
is like the same thing between competition jiu-jitsu for me. Like competition jiu-jitsu and street fighting are vastly different.
Right.
Like if you're going for points, it doesn't translate to a self-defense situation.
Right.
And that's how it kind of relate that. Not that there's not value in it still and fun to go do it, especially if that motivates you to do it more. That's cool. But I always defer back, like with jiu-jitsu or any fighting stuff, I always defer back to how is this going to help me on the street protect myself? And I think I would do the same thing in firearms. Not like I said, not that I wouldn't go do that, but I think that would be a factor in my mind.
Yeah, I don't want your tactics and your CQB and everything you learned to go away.
Right,
but when you're on the range and you're shooting USPSA, make that switch.
Yeah.
You can use it for training, but at the end of the day, you're putting 200, 300, 400 rounds to your pistol in 4 hours.
Yeah.
The nomenclature, I think, might be the right word, but just feeling your firearm that couple hundred times, that is definitely beneficial.
Hugely. Yeah, getting trigger work and
Repetition.
sight picture, all of that.
Yep.
Good
And
times.
a lot of those stages, you start out maybe with your hands up or your hands down, and you are drawing and putting around on paper, and you get that reaction time down fast.
And it's cool, like when they'll start seated sometimes, like you're at a table or whatever,
Right.
like a restaurant, and then something pops off, and now you got to engage it. Like those are cool.
How fast are you out of holster first shot on?
I haven't done that stuff in a while.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you've got a shot clock, I got steel targets.
Heck
Go.
yeah. Well, we'll go out there with Johan. That dude is fast.
I'm gonna find out in 2 days.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll see how quick we can get out.
I really wasn't one of those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't big in US. I did USPSA a lot, but my jam was 3-gun.
Yeah.
So like when I went to shoot USPSA, it's because I was trying to get better at my pistol to take to 3-gun.
Right.
So I was pretty good with my shotgun, it was my jam. And that's kind of what actually killed the sport on our side of things. I'm not saying 3-gun's dead, but I got a lot of complaints as a match director. Hey, can we go lighter on the shotgun stuff? Because guys don't want to learn how to quad load. They don't want to learn how to candy cane, because you might have steel static targets and a slug target at 100 yards and static clay pigeons. So you have to load your shotgun in a certain way, because if you accidentally shoot my steel target at 10 yards and then accidentally shoot birdshot, at the slug, not only are you DQ'd for that, but you just screwed up the whole thing.
Right.
So shotgun can get really technical really quick. They malfunction a lot. So there's a lot of handy stuff going on there. And, in competition, when you're quad loading, you're taking 4 shells from your belt, and you're pushing 2 in and then pushing 2 in right after it. So you kind of have to have big hands. I know there's girls that do it too, but
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It's a lot. So
I just watched a video of Jerry Mikulik,
Yeah.
his daughter quad loading,
Lena, she's
and I was
cool.
like, damn,
Yep.
fast, like
Yeah.
4 rounds in, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, I've shot with her and Jerry quite a few times. They're cool, and so is the mom Kay. Really nice people.
Damn good with guns.
Yep. Yeah, Jerry's funny, man. He's a funny dude.
He's the dude that he's the fastest revolver shooter. Is that the same guy?
He's got the world record.
It's
Had the
like
world record for the revolver.
Mind-blowingly
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
And the reloads too. We're like, dude, pretty legit.
Just muscle memory. Don't even think about it.
Yeah,
It just
yeah.
happens.
I freaking love shotguns. I'm like
Me too.
I'm a big fan. I've got some pretty cool ones.
I got a little one. It's a little Remington 870. It's the one that's like
Is it
kind of in the gray area.
Yeah. Is it the Shockwave with like no stock on it, or
No stock. I
Okay,
don't think
it's
it's.
a little
I don't think it's
pistol
called a Shockwave.
It's not. It's
It's 870.
maybe the Mossberg is the Shockwave. Mossberg has the same one. Yeah.
But yeah, my fiance, she wanted to shoot it the other day, and all I had were 3-inch turkey loads and 3-inch slugs. That's what I carry in my truck. Crack an engine block or make a car stop moving, or key to the city. She wanted to shoot it, and she's holding it, and before I could say stop, she pulled the trigger and she had it right up against her hip.
Ooh.
And it hit. I mean, she's 125 pounds, and it hit her hip, and I just saw her face instantly. I was like, you won't do that again.
Lesson learned. Oh,
So I
good bruise, though.
bought one of those. It was a Mossberg though, because I'm left-handed. Mossberg safeties are on the tang, so they're much easier for me to operate than a crossbolt safety. And I short barrel shotgunned it, and went through the ATF, and it is the coolest gun.
Nice.
It's just freaking sweet, dude. Something about a short shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun.
Eric likes short stuff, right?
Why does it have to become a height thing? Why would you think I like short
Why did
stuff?
you think I
then?
went there?
Oh, you're just talking about weapons. Like I said, I'm just sitting here thinking about cheating with shotguns because I love my semi-automatic shotgun. That's a lot of fun. I don't
Oh,
have to worry about it
Eric
all.
bought a Gen 12 before they became insanely expensive. So
Yes. Yeah, you'll end up meeting those guys while you're up here.
yes,
I just got a.
he kind of looks like Cody.
He
Beretta.
does. He does.
I just got a Beretta I like a lot.
Yeah, those are
It's
sweet.
fun.
Oh, yeah. Genesis Arms, they're a local company, too. One of the guys that's their marketing guy is he and I were on SWAT together out here.
Right on.
He was a Force Recon Marine, and I mean, just a lot of those dudes. It's cool to see the little companies, like talking about yours. It's cool to see how many of them are around here. Just the entrepreneurial side and spirit and skills that are up in North Idaho. There was we had a retired general on. He said, "I don't know for what purpose, but God's making an army, bringing an army to North Idaho. I don't know what for, but I think
We may find
out in our lifetime.
We may find out.
I can help.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There'd be some contributing directly to that.
I don't know what I can contribute to that, but I'll be here.
No, you're the face, dude.
I'll crack a few jokes.
Like I said, and there's another guy we're going to introduce you to that's heavy into some magnet tech, that there would be some correlation in there.
Magnets are fun.
Oh, yeah. There'd be some correlation with tech.
He's coming on the podcast in a week or two. I cannot wait. He's got, instead of electromagnets, he's got a I think he's patented it at this point. He's patented a mechanical switch for magnets where he can turn it on and off by literally turning a handle. So the applications are freaking endless for that thing too.
Yeah, it's super cool.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
But that was always the big thing with electromagnetics too, is the huge dump of energy at the beginning, which is some of what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and surge. I mean, there's so much stuff in the power side of things, but you've got these big mechanical things that spin too. I forget what they're called, but there's this inrush, right? And we start talking about these big grid resiliency projects and stuff with large scale battery storage. And what's funny is a lot of these systems that are already existing are buying this because it turns on and off so fast and can respond so fast. It actually responds faster than the equipment can sense that there's about to be a downtime.
Dang.
So a lot of these big batteries, they're putting just a little one of ours in front of it, just to help with that inrush. So the other stuff that they spent, $200 million on isn't getting slammed, because that's what's ruining these huge projects.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's almost like it's damn near like a surge protector.
Yeah, we can do that.
That's that's cool. Super cool.
Well, we're pushing an hour and a half, boys.
We did pretty well.
We did. We're going to have to do another one with you because we didn't even talk about aliens. And I really want to talk about aliens, but it's going to take a whole nother podcast.
That's true.
So I say we cut it now and we bring you back and do that. That'll be a good one.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Because you got some contacts, dude. We talked about this a little bit, and I was like, oh, yeah, this will be good. So anyway, appreciate you coming out. That was a wealth of information.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, now we know he's the most interesting man in North Idaho.
I don't know about that, but thanks
How
for having
old
me.
are you?
I'll be 40 next month.
What the hell? Wow. Here he is doing all this, and I ate deep fried horse shit one time.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Yes.
That's
full
my
circle.
claim to fame.
Certainly
That's
provide.
pretty cool. Yeah, thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Much
You're welcome. Thanks for
appreciated.
having me.
Yeah.
Later.